Hello and welcome to Queer News Tonight. This is the world's first and only LGBTQ plus daily evening television news, broadcasting live and available on demand on all smart televisions, including Roku, Apple TV, Android TV, Amazon Fire TV, Twitch, YouTube, and of course Facebook. It's time to queer up the news. It is Monday, October 30, 2023. We are live and literally out of the closet and into the headlines. So many of your important stories we're going to tell this evening on Queer News Tonight.
This is the world's first live daily LGBTQ evening news show, literally out of the closet and into the headlines on Queer News Tonight with Al Ferguson.
I'm out South Florida senior reporter John Hayden. This evening, we bring you the news of and perspective representing the LGBTQ plus community from South Florida, America, and around the planet.
This is the world's first and only unedited live LGBTQ plus evening news show. Whatever happens unique in LGBTQ plus news, you will see it and hear it.
HOTspots Magazine, Happening Out Television Network, is a nonprofit 501c3 media company in the same model of PBS and NPR, but designed for the LGBTQ plus community. Our mission is to support the 10 pillars of our LGBTQ plus community, who we want to inform and educate the key issues of our Black community, Latino community, lesbians and queer women, trans students, youth, seniors, HIV/AIDS healthcare, business, social justice, and faith. Help us support our community.
We are part of one of the largest LGBTQ plus media companies in America, HOTspots Magazine and Happening Out Television Network.
Our magazine is celebrating 38 years of the LGBTQ plus experience, and our television news, talk, and entertainment shows support our mission to educate the LGBTQ plus and broader community.
Well, it is Monday. Let's get started and welcome our panel. And we start with Jess Osborn. They boast a remarkable 17-year career in social justice. As founder, executive producer of the award-winning GenderChill, a gender justice fashion show. Notably, Jess serves as the internal affairs director for the Reflect Collective. Hello and welcome. This is your first time on the show.
Yes, it is. Thank you for having me.
We're so happy to have you. All right. In 7 seconds or less, tell me your entire life story. Start at the beginning, leave nothing out.
Don't forget your Amex number.
I was born, I freaked out, and I died.
Oh, I hope not yet.
Not yet.
That's a preview to the end.
Wow, Halloween's tomorrow.
Yeah.
Well, welcome. Tell us a little bit about what you do for the collective and all that.
Thank you. I'm the internal affairs director for Reflect. We are a queer and trans people of color organization that supports the same and those who are survivors of sexual and domestic abuse. So we provide a lot of, mental, emotional support, and most importantly, a lot of financial grants.
And events coming up?
Yes, actually. So I happen to also be the founder of and producer of GenderChill. This will be our third year. It's a gender justice fashion show. And it's also a fundraiser. So Reflect is the beneficiary this year.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Good luck with that. Look forward to seeing that, and welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Glad to have you here.
Thank you.
All right, up next is Glen Weinzimer. Glen is the founder of the Smart Ride, which is celebrating its 20th anniversary next month, November 17th and 18th, and has raised nearly $15 million over the years. He also owns Bona Italian Restaurant in Wilton Manors, although you couldn't tell it because there's no garlic knots here, but that's okay. In the past 6 years, Bona has raised more than $75,000 to help local organizations through events like Give Back Mondays. And tonight is the Pet Project's night. They're going to get 10% of proceeds, right? And every Monday it's a different cause.
Every Monday it's a different cause at Bona Italian Restaurant. Yeah, we've done everything from DD Senior Dog Rescue to the World AIDS Museum, SunServe, Stonewall, Broward House, just kind of list goes on of all the different organizations right now, like Safe Schools and Humanity Project type stuff that's really important to our community with everything that's going on. So yeah, it's anything that we care about. The Bears of South Florida, which raise a lot of money to be able to buy teddy bears for kids going into a hospital so they have something to hug onto. So yeah, we love supporting the community and the great work of a lot of our organizations. And Smart Ride is coming around in 19 days. And our goal is $2 million, and they're about halfway there, which is great because most of the money comes in the last 6 weeks. So they've been making great strides on that. So I'm excited about that. And we've got a special this year. We're bringing the 20 panels of the AIDS quilt from the National AIDS Quilt in Oakland, California, out to the ride. People requested certain panels, and we'll have it on site at the University of Miami. So excited about that.
And what's your favorite part of the ride that you're looking forward to? Because this is going to be the last year for the Smart Ride and this incarnation. We don't know what's going to happen with the beneficiaries and everything. But what are you most looking forward to now that you know you're going to be in the moment? What are you most?
I'll be at the Island House right after and have an open bar. Usually I get there a little too late, but this year that's my goal. No, the most significant for me is always the same thing. It's the closing ceremonies. It's seeing people ride in and ride towards me, and the fact that they all showed up, and that has not disappointed me once in 20 years where I haven't been touched or taken by the fact that all these people show up from, the second largest group of attendees is from out of state. And last year we had 39 states represented. So the fact that they got on planes and spent money and everything else that's probably the highlight of, for me, that's my moment where it's just overwhelming. But yeah.
I look forward to there'll be a couple of days between then and Thanksgiving. I'll get on the phone with you and we'll talk about it, and I can't wait to hear.
I'll be at the pool drinking.
I know. Well, you'll keep your phone with you. You always have your phone with you.
I always have my phone with me.
But in case I don't see you again, well, we're all having dinner at Boner tonight. But if I don't see you again after this, before the ride, best of luck.
Thank you.
It's a year-round project. It's a 2-day event, 364 days of planning. So
well, for most of the attendees, they'll say on Saturday when they get to Key West, oh my God, this was the best 2 days of my best, and I'm like, no, this was the best 6 months because you started training and doing, getting up at 5 or 6 in the morning before the sun in the summer, and you're kind of a divorcee to whoever you happen to be in a relationship with because you're now out with your new friends and you're changing tires and having breakfast and creating stories and memories, and then they get to Key West together at that final celebration. So yeah, it's more than just the 2 days for these folks.
And the riders, glutes for days. Let's welcome anchor Jacob Reide Jennings, a professional ballroom and Latin dancer turned real estate broker and philanthropist. Jacob leads Sherlock Holmes Foundation, a nonprofit 501c3 addressing LGBTQ and youth housing insecurity. Welcome, Jacob.
Why, thank you for having me. I'm so glad to be here. And if you want to learn more about Sherlock Holmes Foundation and how we are helping the most vulnerable populations in our community, please visit sherlockshomes.org. That is SHERLOCKSHOMES.org, and get involved today.
What's the name of your dog?
Sherlock.
Okay.
That's how I made him a tax deduction. I was trying to figure out how to make his pet insurance a business write-off. Yeah, it's true. It hasn't happened yet, but we're trying.
I was going to say, that's brilliant, and it's good to put that out there on national television as well. And finally, the moment we've all been waiting for, we welcome anchor Gregg Shapiro, an inductee into the Chicago LGBT Hall of Fame. Gregg is the author of 9 amazing books. His entertainment coverage, including celebrity interviews, runs in a variety of print and online publications, including the very well-reviewed Out South Florida. Welcome, Gregg.
Gosh darn it, I am so happy to be here.
As always.
All right, you're being squirrely, Gregg.
Do you need a minute?
We're just going to call him Squirrely Gregg for the rest of the show. And we are the reporters for Queer News Tonight. And this evening, we begin with the queer headlines. The LGBTQ plus community in South Florida and America is diverse. Our community across the world is vast. And here are the bullet points for the queer news for today, Monday, October 30. And we begin by queering up the courts. Texas Supreme Court hears case of judge who refuses to marry same-sex couples. Texas Supreme Court justices question whether a Waco justice of the peace should remain under threat of a judicial oversight body's sanctions if she continues refusing to marry gay couples. The State Commission on Judicial Conduct gave Judge Diane Hensley a public warning in 2019 for performing opposite-sex weddings, but declining to perform same-sex wedding ceremonies on religious grounds. A move raises doubts about her capacity to act impartially. Her refusal occurred in the wake of the landmark U.S. Supreme Court ruling requiring all states to recognize and license marriage equality. Hensley serves as a Justice of the Peace in McLennan County, an elected position whose role includes hearing traffic and misdemeanor cases, presiding over landlord and tenant disputes, and conducting weddings. Following the 2019 warning, Hensley filed a lawsuit alleging the Judicial Commission violated her rights under the Texas Religious Freedom Restoration Act. The 1999 law is designed to ensure the government cannot substantially burden the free exercise of religious beliefs. The case is believed to be among several similar cases attempting to expand the reach of a Supreme Court ruling allowing a Colorado web designer to refuse to make websites for same-sex couples' weddings. Oh, stories like this make me so mad. Your religious freedom ends when you go into the public square as a public servant. The Hard Rock used to have a saying, love all, serve all. You don't gotta love us, but you gotta serve us. Absolutely. It's called marriage equality. We are equal to you.
Well, Waco and Wacko, I mean, depending on how you do it, right out of there, because they've had so many wonderful things come out of Waco. The best part is that she wants damages in this lawsuit.
Yeah.
Because she hasn't officiated in years.
Yeah.
Well, I judge her as an idiot. And the issue of partiality and Supreme Court justices seems to be reaching crisis level. It's like, does it even exist? And whether it's in the Lone Star State or the highest court in the land, this is troubling no matter where it's occurring.
Absolutely.
One would think if you spend all day listening to landlord-tenant violations and speeding ticket disgruntled people, you would think like having a gay wedding would be a break in the day. You'd have a lot more fun with it. I mean, if you did that, maybe you'd be a little happier and you would take better pictures.
Well, I hope nothing really big comes out of her case, because that would be really dangerous, very dangerous for us. It's already pretty tenuous with the way things are, and especially here in Florida. And we don't want people doing crazy things over there and bringing them over here, because we already got the crazy over here.
Oh, yeah, in spades.
Yeah.
Remember the last time we had someone refuse service? We had a story here about the
chick in Kentucky?
The one that had the bakery, didn't want to bake cakes or something.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
And there was no actual same-sex couple that actually tried
the
to enlist her.
website,
It was
the
all a
website
mental
designer.
game.
Yeah.
No, it was the baker. It was female.
Oh, really? So there wasn't actually a
There wasn't
client.
an actual couple. She just thought, I think this is going to be offensive, and she took it all the way to the Supreme Court.
Wow.
Like, dear God.
And she won. She was not
won.
she was literally had no damages.
You know.
Literally had no damages whatsoever.
And she's
Poor
the one.
thing.
But
Her fragile ego must be so validated right now.
Oh.
She's never had an orgasm.
Well, you know what? I think we're going to move on.
That was the statement that made you blush? Really?
I didn't blush. I said move on. Let's Queer Up Entertainment, creator of Queer Green Lantern series, to donate all royalties to LGBTQ plus charities to spite haters.
Already the haters and the queerphobes are out in force, doing everything they can to see that this book tanks. They use code and they make it sound like they have legit problems with a book they haven't read yet. But the truth is, they just don't like that there's a queer hero in the upper ranks of the DCU. The only way we can shut these people down is to make this book an undeniable success. The only way to prove to all the big publishers that there's a huge market for authentic stories about LGBTQIA plus characters, and that these stories are for everyone, is to buy the heck out of books like this. This one's only 6 issues, and each one has a few variants, so I'm asking, if you have the means, buy them up. Buy extras to give to people you think really need to read it. Now, you might say this sounds like a great way for Tim Sheridan to make a bundle in royalties. Well, no. I won't make a penny, because every single royalty I receive from these 6 issues will go straight to a charity that's very important to me and that I've supported for a long time, the Elton John AIDS Foundation, which works to prevent HIV stigma and provide compassionate care for all communities. I am asking you to join the Corps. If you care about truth and justice, about shining a light in the darkness, if you think comics are and should continue to be for everyone, or if you just want to force these Comicsgate trolls back onto the bridge they crawled out from, please support our book and send a message that the bullying and the lies and the hate have to stop. Everyone deserves to see themselves in comics. Everyone needs allies, and if you're an ally, now is the time to step up. We outnumber them. So let's pool our power, vote with our wallets, and beat these assholes. Add as many of these 4 variant covers for Alan Scott, the Green Lantern, to your pull list today. Pick them up in store next week, Tuesday the 24th. Thank you so much.
This is a great story, and he's told it so well that I don't know what that I'm going to be able to do justice to it. It is common for It is common for comic book creators to get on social media and rally fans to buy their newest book. But writer Tim Sheridan, whose credits include Teen Titans Academy, Dragon Age, Absolution, and as of this week, DC Comics' 6-issue miniseries, Alan Scott, The Green Lantern, had something a little different to say. In a video posted on social media, Sheridan asked fans for a favor when it came to the Green Lantern, saying, quote, "The haters and the queerphobes are already doing everything they can to see that this book tanks. But the truth is that the haters don't like that there's a queer hero in the upper ranks of the DCU," end quote. As a result, Sheridan has requested queer and open-minded fans to pick up copies of the series written by him and drawn by Cian Termine, as he would be donating all of his royalties to the Elton John AIDS Foundation. Sheridan says he chose the Elton John AIDS Foundation because he's felt inspired by the singer-songwriter's work and philanthropy for a very long time. The high percentage of the contributions to the organizations goes to those in need, and its attention to supporting a combination of research into a cure, treatment support of those living with HIV/AIDS, and palliative care. The Elton John Foundation, which I think it's great that he's doing, started in 1992. Yep. And they not only do they do work here in the U.S., but they do a lot of work overseas, especially in Africa. They've done a lot of education and testing and have put a ton of money into helping the LGBTQ community and in general those most affected, which in Africa is, more people with economic issues, and so kudos to Sheridan for wanting to help support that, and kudos to the Elton John Foundation because they have just done amazing work over the last 2 decades.
Mm-hmm. Well, as someone married to an avid comic book reader, I'm not allowed to say he's a comic book geek, but I've learned a great deal about the queer community's relationship with comics, and I'm really grateful for Tim Sheridan's activism and generosity. It's pretty amazing.
Mm-hmm.
I just think if you're any kind of queer, especially if you live in Florida, you're a hero. Driving on 95 and dealing with DeSantis, we're all superheroes on my book.
Yeah. Which is, I guess, 95 is a clear and present danger, and
Yes,
DeSantis is
true.
kind of like a removed, abstract danger.
He's the looming, he's the final evil guy at the end of the video game, at the end of the comic book. That's him. Or him and Trump. Yeah.
And this ties in a bit to your mission as well. In that you work with LGBTQ plus youth.
Yeah.
And certainly it's great to have young people are more of probably the comic readers, I guess, maybe because I quit reading when I was 17. But no, it's about positive role models for LGBTQ plus kids. And you work a little bit in that, or am I just stretching too much?
Well, you stressed. You did stress, but you did it very well.
Thank you.
I have to applaud that. Snap cut, wonderful. Yeah, I was just more going to say, I always loved watching the DCU. Marvel's a little dark, which, is also hot in different ways, but I think the DC universe has a lot of representation overall. And, when they had X-Men is DC, right? You're the one that's married to the
No, X-Men is Marvel.
It's Marvel.
Is it really?
Yeah.
Oh, well, never mind. Moment over. I just think the Green Lantern's kind of hot. I love that he's got a ring. You're gay when your entire superpower comes from jewelry, that thing, something. And I just think it's going to be really great. And I was really proud of him actually going out there and saying something. What I do wish he would do is try to do something on social media that would encourage people to get engaged with his mission. Either some sort of posting a photo or some of the artwork and then making his followers have captions for it so they can share and like it. And I would also like to see more of these activists start dealing with local grassroots, smaller nonprofits versus just giving all their money to foundations who have plenty of money but have not been down in the grassroots dealing with people who are living with the HIV and AIDS and know what they're going for versus being cisgender white people who are far above and removed and don't really relate to the people they're trying to serve anymore.
I agree that it is important that we remember the grassroots and we get back to it. But I also just love because queer representation is important, just overt representation, because it's been an underlying, the people who have to hide, who have to get into their special outfits every day to do their
Yes.
superpowers.
Yes.
That's a queer community.
We wear a mask when we're in the closet. We're just trying to pass, be stealth if you're trans. Absolutely.
Exactly. So to have this kind of representation is just representation on steroids. It's so incredibly important for our community and for the upcoming generation of LGBTQ plus youth who too many people want to erase, silence, and ignore.
I want to see what Cian Tomei is going to come up with, because he actually does a really nice job of creating different shapes and colors and diversity in his artwork. I'm actually really kind of curious to see what he comes up with. Green Lantern that's not just six packs. Don't get me wrong, that's nice too, but what else is there?
Sure.
First two issues on stands. Let's go find them.
Let's go right now.
Well, no, let's wait a few more minutes. We still have lots of stuff to talk about. We have to talk about Montana.
That's right. Yes. All right. Next, let's queer up education. Montana State University being investigated for ignoring threats to Queer Straight Alliance. Montana State University is under investigation by the U.S. Department of Education's Office for Civil Rights for discrimination for failing to respond appropriately after the Queer Straight Alliance received threats, including a death threat, last semester. A letter from the Office of Civil Rights said the federal agency received more than 20 complaints alleging the Bozeman campus failed in its response to reports of harassment based on sex, race, color, and national origin. The Queer Straight Alliance provides support for LGBTQ plus students at MSU, the state's largest public university. The organization received a death threat in February for a queer-friendly dance party it promoted in town, and later a harassing message. In an email to the Daily Montanan, MSU said law enforcement found the threats were not credible threats of violence, and the off-campus event took place without an incident. However, the Office for Civil Rights letter to MSU President Waded Cruzado said it would investigate allegations of the university discriminating against students and faculty by failing to respond appropriately to reports of harassment. Title IX of the 1972 Federal Education Amendments and Title VI of the Civil Rights Act prohibit discrimination at universities receiving federal money. Yeah, that's really bad. The first thing that I think of, because the other major problem that we have in this country is gun control. And the lack of it, the complete lack of it. And it's pretty scary to just be a really young person, a student, to be trying to like carve their way. First time they might be coming out even as a queer person, and they're having to deal with death threats and possible gun violence like at such a young and tender age. Yeah. It's a terrible thing.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I've been to 45 of the 50 states, and having never been to Montana, I feel confident in my decision to exclude it from my.
No, I couldn't disagree with you more.
You want to go to Montana?
We need to go. We need to support all of our queer brothers and sisters wherever they are, because we've got a great community here, but their community is not even being backed up by their university or their law enforcement. Because you got to remember, I want to know, when were they at least told of these threats? When did they find out about them? When did they give them to administrators? Because clearly the administration said that they're not going to do anything. And colleges and universities don't want to report things like death threats against any of their organizations or their students. When I was in college, I was a huge thing. It was the early and mid 90s. But, you know, there was a big thing about, and I wouldn't be surprised that it still goes on, about sexual assaults that were underreported. Because you can complain to your RA in the dorm, and then they might call campus police. Campus police don't have to respond. There are more rules now, but they didn't have to respond to until regular police or the state police. So that way reporting is down, and they look like they're a much safer institution than they already are. This is playing with fire. Yeah. This is just playing with fire. We do mass shootings too often. Among those are LGBTQ plus related. We're going to have Trans Day of Remembrance next month, where we're going to remember trans women, trans brothers and sisters, but mostly trans black women who are murdered. They are the top demographic for being murdered just for being who they are. So for the university to just say, no, not a big deal. No, it's a very big deal, because you're right. 998 out of 1,000 threats are going to be empty. But it's the two that aren't empty. And you're willing to play that type of roulette with your student body. And that's sick, and it is a
irresponsible.
critical mission failure.
They're exactly the people that I think these safety protocols were made for, because they are the most vulnerable. We're meant to have, law enforcement and just like, all the protocols and the rules, the laws to support people like elderly folks walking down the street, like speed limits, like this is included in that. You have to help the vulnerable. And I don't feel that kind of way in this society at the moment, especially how vicious it is right now politically. But a lot of people are just like apathetic, or they're like, nah, don't worry about it. But it's a very serious thing. It's still very big in the queer community. Like there's a lot of violence regardless, any LGBTQ person. And that's what these protocols were for. And it's kind of ridiculous that they're not, doing what they're meant to be doing.
But I think about every year they put out the list of the most the most LGBTQ plus friendly schools and the least friendly schools. And I'm not sure what the school status was before this, but I'm sure they've now fallen in that list. They're probably on the least friendly list.
Well, hopefully they will take it as an opportunity to say, oh, we messed up.
That's the thing. I don't want to speak too negatively, because here's things that we're not talking about. One, they actually have a gay-straight alliance. That's progressive. Two, they had an event that took place without incident. That's also fantastic. So there are growing pains that happen, especially in rural communities where they don't have access to information as readily as our community here in South Florida is. So let's acknowledge the growth that is there. And let's hope that this is the only negative piece of publication that you guys get from this, and you guys actually do take the time to grow and learn from this and actually do what you are doing, which so far has been progressive, and I want to give you credit for that. Please don't ignore the threats. I'm glad it went off without any violence. I'm sure we all are. But let's not take that for granted, and just make sure that your operating procedures are up to scratch.
Yep.
I'm going down because I think I'm next. Hold on.
You are. You are.
Clicking. Next. Let's queer up trans rights. Federal court temporarily blocks Idaho student bathroom bill. The Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals has temporarily blocked an Idaho bill banning transgender students from using restrooms, lockers, showers, or other school facilities that align with their gender identity. The law would require schools to enforce separate bathroom use on the basis of sex assigned at birth, and allow students to sue schools for $5,000 for each violation. The bill was signed into law in March by Governor Brad Little and applies to all K-12 charter and public schools. In July, attorneys representing a 7th grade transgender student and Boise High School's Sexuality and Gender Alliance Club filed a lawsuit saying the bill violates students' constitutional rights and discriminates on the basis of sex. In August, a federal court temporarily blocked enforcement of this law, but this month, Idaho's chief U.S. District Judge David Nye lifted the block, saying that the plaintiffs failed to show their challenge would succeed. The latest decision by the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals blocks the law from going into effect until it can review the plaintiff's initial motion for an injunction. In a statement released recently, attorneys for the plaintiffs called the ruling a, quote, relief for transgender students across Idaho, end quote. I think it's really interesting that they're talking about $5,000 sue for each infraction. I mean, that would honestly drive any parent who has a trans child out of that school district. That is predatorial.
Absolutely.
Like that's, regardless of being discriminatory against sex and gender, it's predatorial against families. Isn't that disturbing? Beyond just that right there, that's incredibly disturbing. Come on, Idaho. You make great potatoes, but get off with it.
I think to take it back into a little more history of the things that I've studied and I've worked for the Human Rights Campaign, Equality Florida, things I've learned is we are still a wedge issue. Conservatives really don't care about a person, including LGBTQ folks, when they're using us as their playthings, a chess move, and that's extremely dangerous. Not to even mention like the mental health of these children in these schools, having to figure out like what bathroom they need to go into when they're trying to figure out who they are. So I think that's like the most cruelest, worst, like most evil thing that one can do is to play with someone's actual life. Folks are dead. Children are dead because they are trans and queer, and politicians just want to make us into some sort of like movable pond so they can gain power and money.
Absolutely.
Well, and now with the new speaker, Mike Johnson, being perhaps the most extreme person ever in that position. Things aren't gonna. Do you think things will get better? I don't think things are gonna get better right now.
I mean, I was in high school about 10 years ago.
Whatever, go on.
Anyway, and I remember
Picking up your niece, or
I have nephews, but anyway, they were moving on. So I was being, we'll say, harassed my junior year as well, and I just stopped using the locker rooms. And I was not trans. I was just uncomfortable being naked around other guys who were threatening me. I can't imagine how much worse it is for a trans child in that situation. It's scary enough. You do not have to understand something to be compassionate. So if you could just extend a little compassion, you'd see that some of these laws could be tweaked a little bit better to make it more effective and support everybody.
and this trend of empowering, I call it the Karen empowerment laws, because now any Karen can say, oh, this person used a bathroom at the school where my daughter goes, and I'm going to sue you for oh wait, that child went twice to the bathroom, they did $10,000. But it's becoming endemic in many of these conservative laws. Yeah. You can sue in Texas, you can sue if someone helps someone leave town and go across state lines to get an abortion. That person who helped the patient can be sued. This is turning into the Big Brother state at its absolute finest. Everybody turns on each other. Everybody's watching each other's backs. This isn't about bringing unity. This is about highlighting discrimination and emphasizing discrimination and profitizing, is that a word? And profiting from discrimination.
Yeah.
These are horrible, horrible laws that until we can turn them back, until we can at least say, no, you don't have standing, you don't have the legal right to sue someone over this particular issue, until we can pull back from that brink, and it is a dangerous cliff we're standing over. Until we can pull back from that, these Karens and their acolytes are going to continue to have way more influence than any of them deserve.
You know, initially I thought, I can't believe bathroom bills are still making the news, but then I thought, but wait, it's Idaho. All these years late getting to the hate party and bringing another tired bathroom bill casserole. Yeah. Enough, Idaho.
But it's also about education. You know, a lot of these conservative states have not been exposed to enough diversity. They're living on big farms and stuff. You know, yes, you've got your central towns, but your leaders are all very conservative, and they're preaching conservatism. And we know even like here in the state of Florida, where it gets worse is when you get into religion, you get into more conservative areas. And if they're gathering places every Sunday and the rest of the week they're digging up potatoes, you know, what are they learning? And so then that's obviously being taught in the schools and it's trickling down. And how do you get that education? Does it need to happen on a national level where there's a program that's put into place to help, you know, I mean, I don't know how you do, but somehow you've got to educate people to understand that there is no reason to hate a group because you've got nothing better to do.
I think we should all ride our bikes into the rural areas and chat with them.
I do not want us to be a target practice for anybody.
I want to.
Glenn's got enough biking in his future over the next 3.5 weeks. So
don't give me a new project.
Don't make him ride to Pocatello.
But I do want to just make the point that I do think it's important as part of education for folks that are very different to meet each other.
Absolutely. Yeah. That's part of it.
Jacob, back in for the last word.
Yes, I want to give credit here because I don't want this to turn into an Idaho bashing thing, because this was an injunction. Like, this is good news for what we're doing. So that means that there is some enlightenment come to that state, that there is a voice being heard, that there are people in power, at least giving a benefit of the doubt what they're trying to do. They are trying to get somewhere. So yes, while it can be a conservative state, there are conservative people who do care about our rights. And we want to give them access to give them part of the stage to say thank you for what you're doing and for your support.
But this isn't a state ruling. This is a federal court that's stepping in. So these aren't Idahoans saying, oh, we're better Idahoans. This is an appointed judge, probably by President Obama. I'm just guessing, or Biden. But this is not the state just finally deciding to get right.
Well, but at the same time, you have the Boise High School Sexuality and Gender Alliance Club that's there. That's actually, those are Boiseans, is that the term? Yeah, there are, I mean, there is more here, and we want to acknowledge, we want you to know we see you. That's what I'm trying to say. We see you, we support you, and we're rooting for you.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Next, let's queer up business. Sex trafficking victims claim Abercrombie and Fitch aided former CEO in abusing them. Dozens of men have filed a class action lawsuit alleging Abercrombie and Fitch was complicit in a decade-long sex trafficking scheme carried out by the fashion company's former CEO. According to the complaint filed in federal court in New York, Michael Jeffries, who ran the company between 1992 and 2014, used his role to prey upon attractive young men who believed Jeffries would hire them as Abercrombie models. The complaint alleges Jeffries ran an expansive sex trafficking operation, coercing and forcing young men to engage in sexual acts in exchange for money and promises of employment. The lawsuit states that, in a series of instances, one aspiring model was invited to multiple Abercrombie and Fitch casting events in New York, France, and London, and was sexually assaulted at least 7 times at these events. According to the lawsuit, the total number of victims is believed to exceed 100. The plaintiffs are seeking a trial by jury as well as punitive and compensatory damages. The complaint also names Jeffries' longtime partner, Matthew Smith, as a defendant, claiming he sexually assaulted men alongside Jeffries. While Smith did not hold any official position at the company, he was still given access to non-public information such as sales reports and financial documents. Well, in addition to being a racist, Michael Jeffries is now being credited and also credited with sexualizing Abercrombie's image. So I have to mention the 2022 documentary White Hot, The Rise and Fall of Abercrombie and Fitch. That's where you can get a lot more insight to this. And shame on Jeffries and his sickening casting couch antics.
And the people who knew. No, I would bet my house that more people than the victims and Jeffries and his boyfriend knew. They knew.
And look the other way.
And look the other way.
It's upsetting to think that monsters come in any sexual orientation, and we see that with Epstein. We see it here now. It's just monsters are monsters, and it's just sad to think that's happening in our own community and taking advantage of people that we're supposed to be taking care of.
Right. And remember, it's not about sex. Sexual assault is about power.
Yep.
And and the easy thing, and I usually try and stay out of the comment section, but after I read this story, I read some of the comments, and then they weren't asking for it. Just because they are hot doesn't mean that they're here to be sexually assaulted. They may be there. The modeling gig says, yes, shirtless, tight pants, whatever. But that's all in a contract that is agreed to. But sexual assault is never consensual. It just isn't. There is a power dynamic that can't be overturned. And the fact that these guys basically use their business as a hunting ground for their own sexual exploits is disgusting. And yes, the documentary that came out last year, incredibly good. The people that they get to talk in that documentary, they're brave. They open up, they hold nothing back. So it's called White Hot. And was it on Hulu?
I
want to say it was on Hulu.
I think it's on streaming now.
It's still streaming. So look it up. I'm sure a version of it's on YouTube if it's been pulled from the streamers. Look it up, watch it, because sexual assault is not funny. It's never funny no matter how you look, because it's not about look, it's about power. Well, next, we queer up the worldview. Queer News Tonight historic live broadcast from Cyprus on Saturday, November 11th. The Queer News Tonight team strives every day to ensure you get the latest LGBTQ+ news from South Florida, America, and around the world. We are going to report live for 11 days while traveling through Europe, Africa, and the Mideast. While we will enjoy a cruise, tours, and delicious food, we want you to know that we also value you even more. And to keep the promise of delivering the top news, we are doing a live broadcast from the Isle of Cyprus on Sunday, November 11th. We will bring you the top news from the LGBTQ+ community no matter where we are. Make sure to stay tuned as we bring you the global headlines from some of the world's most historic locations. And of course, Faye's going to be leading these broadcasts, and I know she is excited about it. I mean, we already streamed the world, but now we're really going out into the world. I mean, Cyprus, you've met your match. You've met your match with Faye and and it's a whole group from Sunshine Cathedral is doing the group cruise and all the tours. Okay. If you're expecting like average just church folk to show up and take a couple pictures on like a physical like Kodak camera and all that, no. These are not your typical church people. They are fun. They are here to enjoy and to learn and to find fellowship with each other on the group, and also with the people who make up this world, including in Egypt and Cyprus and the Acropolis. So it's going to be 11 amazing broadcasts. And this is a nice little set that Art designed behind us. But when you've got the Acropolis as your backdrop, when you've got the pyramid, it's gonna be something special. So please, please, please watch.
Sounds like a lot of fun.
It will
Sounds
be.
like something we're going to miss.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We love you, Faye.
All right. Next, we are proud of our special partnership with Sunshine Cathedral, the world's largest queer church here in Fort Lauderdale. Supporting that partnership, we are broadcasting from our permanent set here at Sunshine Cathedral at the Happening Out television studios. We broadcast Sunshine Cathedral's Sunday International Service at 10:30 a.m.
Well, we finished tonight's Queer News headlines with a segment we call LGBTQ plus 1 Minute News.
LGBTQ plus 1 minute news. Let's queer up HOTspots. See the LGBTQ plus films in the Fort Lauderdale International Film Festival in HOTspots magazine, on stands now. The 38th annual Fort Lauderdale International Film Festival will roll out the red carpet on Friday, kicking off a 14-day festival filled with 200 films from 40 countries, including several with LGBTQ plus themes. In addition to the impressive lineup of films, directors and producers, actors and special guests will walk the red carpet, conduct Q&A discussions, and mingle with attendees. The festival starts with an opening night, film, red carpet, and a party. Attendees will see remarkable LGBTQ plus films such as Artists Unknown, Fireworks, Big Easy Queens, I Remember Shoulder Dance, Our Son, and more. To find out more about the festival and line up, grab a free copy of HOTspots magazine today. The new issue is already on stands.
LGBTQ plus 1 minute news. Let's queer up South Florida and Florida. GenderChill, Gender Justice Fashion Show, returns to FIU. FIU's Pride Student Union and I have partnered for another gender justice fashion show, GenderChill. The event will be on November 17th at FIU Biscayne Bay in North Miami. GenderChill is an LGBTQIA plus centered fashion show aimed at deconstructing the gender binary through fashion and celebrates human diversity and the gender spectrum. This show will include a surprise guest speaker, student designers, community designers, food, music, mocktails, performances, and a lot more. There will be awareness building, educational materials, and resources. This year's GenderChill is made possible by the grant from the Our Fund Foundation, an LGBTQ+ community foundation, the FIU Student Government Association, as well as funding from local organizations and individuals. Get your tickets at go.fiu.edu/chill tickets.
LGBTQ+ 1 Minute News, let's queer up education. Harvard students throw big trans party to protest appearance by Riley Gaines. Riley Gaines, a swimmer who fights against participation of trans women in women's sports, drew huge criticism last week. Gaines was invited to campus by Harvard's Network of Enlightened Women, a conservative women's club. However, students protested by throwing a big trans party at the entrance. Groups including Trans Harvard, the Queer Students Association, and Harvard Law School's Women's Law Association got together an hour before the event, and as Gaines began to speak, they started speeches of their own. One graduate from the class of 1919 is a Harvard swimmer who was the first openly gay, openly trans man to compete in NCAA D1 athletics. He gave a speech praising the growth of trans advocacy at Harvard since his time as an undergrad.
LGBTQ 1 Minute News, let's queer up Road to Stonewall. Honor those who have fought at a special Transgender Day of Remembrance event. Ariana's Center observes Transgender Day of Remembrance by arranging the Illuminate for Tidor 2023. This event's going to be held November 13th through 21st to pay tribute to transgender individuals who have tragically lost their lives to transphobia. The event will feature programs designed to empower, educate, and commemorate those who are no longer with us. Programs will include the arrival of the coronation of Miss Queen Puerto Rico 2024 and a visit to the Civil Rights and LGBTQ Center, among others. The organization has collaborated with Solange Dekker, Miss International Queen 2023 from the Netherlands, who will be hosting panel and discussions at the event. More information and programs and events are available at arianas-center.org.
LGBTQ+ 1 Minute News. Let's queer up the worldview. Hungary bans teenagers from World Photo Exhibit due to LGBTQ+ pictures. Hungary's government has banned visitors under 18 from visiting the World Press Photo Exhibition on display in Budapest, citing LGBTQ+ content in some of the photos. The Hungarian National Museum has stopped selling tickets for the photo exhibition to minors after the far-right Mi Hazánk Our Homeland party initiated a government inquiry. Prime Minister Viktor Orbán's nationalist government promotes a Christian conservative agenda and in 2021 banned the, quote, display and promotion of homosexuality, end quote, in books and films accessible by minors, despite strong criticism from the European Union. Earlier this year, some Hungarian booksellers were fined for selling books depicting homosexuality, which were not wrapped in plastic as required by law. That is today's news for the LGBTQ+ community on the world's first and only daily LGBTQ+ evening news show.
If our community is important to you, share this news with your friends and family. Are you, like most of America, part of our very large television audience watching this live LGBTQ+ news broadcast right now on Roku, Apple TV, Android TV, and Amazon Fire TV?
Queer News Tonight is the only live LGBTQ+ digital television show in the world that is out of the closet and into the headlines. We need your support. If our community is to grow, we must tell our stories and bring them to the attention of the broader world.
This is the only place in the world that tells these types of LGBTQ+ stories in motion and sound. That is the passion of HOTspots magazine, Happening Out Television Network, and Queer News Tonight.
I'm John Hayden, and on behalf of these LGBTQ+ reporters, the anchors of Queer News Tonight, including Jess Osborn, Glen Weinzimer, Jacob Reide Jennings, and of course, Gregg Shapiro. We will see you daily at 8 p.m. And to our LGBTQ+ world, we wish you a very
good night.
We are Queer News Tonight, the world's first and only live daily LGBTQ plus evening news show, brought to you from Happening Out Television Network. We operate in the same model of PBS and NPR, but for the LGBTQ plus community. We educate, inform, and entertain by supporting the 10 pillars of our LGBTQ plus community, with more than 100,000 a week watching us on Roku, Apple Television, and other channels. To keep the story going, we accept donations with 100% transparency. Stay updated and live authentically with Queer News Tonight.